A woman who was filmed physically assaulting and falsely accusing a Black teenager of stealing her phone in a hotel lobby in New York, by the way, has now been arrested in Ventura County, California, near Los Angeles. We have some details about who she is and how she resisted arrest, by the way. Her name is Mia Ponsetto. She's 22 years old, and she was pulled over for a routine traffic stop. There was already a warrant for her arrest because of the fact that she had assaulted someone. And when she was asked to step out of the vehicle, she closed the door and refused to step out. So police in Ventura County literally had to drag her out and arrest her. Now, how bad was this situation? It's a story that we talked about. We gave some details, showed some video about it, but she seems to not understand why it's wrong to falsely accuse anyone, including a Black teenager, of stealing her phone. Her phone was later returned to her by Uber because she had left her phone in an Uber. So with that all said, it's important to go to these videos because she decided to do an interview with Gayle King and it did not go well. And she had an unfortunate choice of attire, I guess, accessories when she did this interview. I don't know why she made these decisions, but she also didn't say a lot of great things. So let's go to the first video.
I admit, yes, I could have approached the situation differently, or maybe not yelled at him like that and made him feel, maybe some sort of inferior way, making him feel as if I was hurting his feelings, because that's not my intention. I consider myself to be super sweet. I really never ever meant for it to hurt him or his father either.
Are you saying that you were stopping everybody in the lobby, asking them about your phone? Is that what you're saying?
Not everyone, just the people that in the meantime, while the hotel manager was checking the footage, I just wanted to do my part as best as I could.
Not everyone, just specific people that I'm profiling, just those people. She just seems to be a little oblivious to how wrong she is. But anyway, I'm opening it up to you guys, thoughts, and we have other videos to get to as well to prove my point about her.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So first and foremost, for those, just to get more context, this is life or death for Black people in America and globally, right? Eric Garner was murdered over cigarettes. George Floyd was murdered over an apparent, supposedly fake $20 bill. What was done to this child is not only traumatizing, it could have actually ended much worse for him. And her not understanding that shows just the lack of common sense. I don't even know. Where has she been for the last year? This is such a, please take it. I just.
Yeah, it's funny because I think this interview was meant to be a positive PR move. You see her lawyer sitting next to her. I'm sure her lawyer regrets everything now because this was just an absolute disaster. Look, honestly, if I'm gonna agree to an interview with the sole intention of positive PR, I'm not gonna wear a cap that says daddy on it. I don't know why she made that. I know that's a small thing, but it just shows she's 22, she's not making good decisions in life. And this interview certainly was not a good decision. Let's go to the next video and then I wanna hear your thoughts, Farron.
You just described yourself as super sweet. I know you've seen the video. When you look at the video, the reaction seems very extreme. It doesn't seem like it's someone who's super sweet.
How would you feel if you were alone in New York and you're going to spend time with your family during the holidays and you lose the one thing that gets stolen from you that has all of the access to the only way that you're able to get back home?
I just don't think I would randomly attack people, is what I'm saying to you. I know you said you could have handled it better, but I just don't think I would randomly attack people in the manner in which you did. What do you think when you look at that video? You're standing there in your leggings and your flip-flops, and it looks like you're just going nuts, for lack of a better word.
No, I'm not letting him walk away with my phone. I don't feel that is who I am as a person.
For me, you put your hands on a child, you assaulted someone. So that's and you fought, like you assaulted someone because you profiled them and falsely accused them of stealing your phone. And anyway, Farron, you take it away.
I love how she says, well, this isn't who I am as a person, but when you're under stress, when you're under pressure like that, it actually shows you exactly who you are as a person. And oh my God, $1 million idea here. What if we make phones to where you can actually somehow track them without having the phone on you? Oh my God, right there. No, but for real, what she did is it's ingrained racism. It's people who don't even necessarily know that they're racist. Maybe I don't know her personally, but it's just these deeply held beliefs that they can't quite understand that, oh my God, something's missing. There's a black kid, and they automatically assume that's why. It's missing because there's somebody that doesn't look like me here, and I automatically think they did it. And I live in the deep South. That is so common because you have so many people around here who have no idea that they're racist. They truly do not think they are, but they totally are. They'll tell you, no, you can't go there. That's the bad part of town. And we know exactly
I've heard that
what
kind
they
of rhetoric.
mean. Yeah, like, oh, lock your doors. We have to go down this street. Unfortunately, I have family members like that who absolutely are totally not racist, but they have that in them. And yes, that is ingrained racism that they don't even realize they have. And until people start to wake up and realize, oh my God, I'm like that, we're not gonna have a whole heck of a lot of progress on this issue. People have to look internally and realize you hold these beliefs, you really do. And you have to start with you to make the situation better.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago, there was this big debate about implicit bias within policing. And I think that people have this idea of racism, like you have to be like David Duke, or someone from the KKK to be considered racist. But there are there's subconscious biases playing a role in decisions we make or how we look at certain people. I've seen some people online arguing that no, this isn't racism because she's actually not white. She's half Puerto Rican, half I think Vietnamese, if I'm not mistaken. But you don't have to be white to be racist. That's just not, you can be Mexican, you can be Asian, you can be Armenian, you can be black, right? It doesn't matter. But a lot of these biases and a lot of overt racism has been directed toward the black community, especially black men, in all these instances of police brutality that we've been talking about for years now. And so for her to not be aware of that and to not be aware of the fact that she was specifically profiling someone, I think is a big issue. By the way, unless I saw it with my own two eyes or I have evidence, I've seen surveillance or something proving that someone stole my phone. There's no way in hell I'm just gonna start attacking someone and accusing them of stealing my phone. Anyway, let's go to the next video.
I don't feel like this one mistake does define me, but I do sincerely from the bottom of my heart apologize that if I made the son feel as if I assaulted him or if I hurt his feelings or the father's feelings.
I don't believe one mistake defines anybody, but I think when I look at that particular video, you did more than just accuse him. The video seems to show that you physically attacked this young boy. You do see that too, right?
But at the end of the day, the dad did end up slamming me to the ground and pulling my hair and throwing me and dragging me across the ground. So I will say that.
Yeah, but I think, the video we saw, it looked like you had just attacked his son.
Yeah, the footage shows me attacking his son. Of attacking him how? Yelling at him? Yes. Okay, I apologize. Can we move on?
No, you put your hands on him. You put your hands on him and falsely accused him of stealing your phone. And I don't have children. I can only assume that if I did have children and someone was physically assaulting my child, yeah, I'm gonna rip your hair out. I'm gonna grab you and I'm gonna pull you off my child. His father did nothing wrong here. Let's just be clear.
Yes.
So.
Look, I agree with you 100%. I mean, look, I have 4 kids. So, if anybody were to ever come up to any one of my kids and say, hey, you stole my phone, I'd be like, okay, whoa, hold up. And I would absolutely check my kid for the phone. But if you come towards them, we're gonna have a problem. We're going to have a very big problem at that point. If you think my child stole something from you, let me know. I'll give them the full pat down, check their bags, whatever it is. But if you go to put a hand on that child that's not yours, I think probably any parent really anywhere is going to have that kind of reaction. I mean, that's almost ingrained in mammal DNA. So yes, that's going to be an issue. And for her to be like, well, yeah, but I beat the kid up, but look, I got kind of thrown to the ground after I grabbed a child. It's ridiculous. I mean, she wants to be the victim here, but there's footage. You can't play the victim when we can all clearly see what went on in that footage.
Yeah. So I think that there are multiple issues here, right? If you notice, she's trying to weaponize her white passing even. And I think that's a deeper conversation, is that while she is Vietnamese and Puerto Rican as it was reported, she is white passing in many communities. And that comes with its own heaping of anti-blackness oftentimes. So it's not just a matter of her saying, oh, I was also pushed down and admonishing herself of any guilt. She's saying I was pushed and attacked by this black man, because we're all conditioned in white supremacy and bigotry in our own ways, and oftentimes that conditioning comes with a mess of entitlement and expectations from non-black people that white supremacy will protect me. Right, even if I'm not white, this person is black and therefore I will be protected. And earlier in the interview, not only does she leverage that, she leverages something that's even older in our country, and that's the history of black men and white women and how white women are able to leverage white tears and white innocence. She says, "Oh, I think of myself as a good person. I'm sweet.
I'm alone in New York." She mentioned being alone in New York. I came to visit my family, and like she put herself in the position of being the victim. And I love the way that the word entitlement is exactly right. Like that's the exact right word to use. Like she felt entitled to acting the way that she did, and she's justifying it by using these stereotypes of like this innocent, damsel in distress who needed to be protected. And she's outraged that she's facing or suffering any consequences for putting her hands on someone. You can't do that. That's against the law. So and I apologize, I interrupted you, but please finish your thoughts.
But you can do it if you're doing it to a black person, and that's essentially what we've seen time and time again, right? If you are committing atrocities, committing daily nuance and manifestations of racism against black people, it will go overlooked in the justice system that never prevails for them. I think, and again, one other thing that I wanted to comment on is the reason why oftentimes I don't like being referred to as a person of color. I am black, because being a person of color doesn't necessarily speak to the anti-blackness and how pervasive it is in communities of non-black people. Oftentimes we forget George Zimmerman, who murdered Trayvon Martin, was actually not a white man. He was white passing, but he was a Latinx person. So these are the more nuanced conversations about how white supremacy conditions all of us that we need to be having.
So let's get to, go ahead, Farron.
Oh, no, I just wanted to jump in from a legal perspective just for a moment. Because when you're talking about her saying, well, I consider myself a sweet person, this doesn't define who I am, it was a mistake. That is absolutely, I believe, coming from her lawyer who coached her on how to talk, not just in this interview, but really how to play to a jury. You're in New York, it's the holidays, you're scared, you didn't have anybody else there. There's this kid, he may have been a kid, but probably your size, you're not that big of a person, you're relatively petite. This kid could have taken you easily, you were scared. Like I've seen it. I mean, we see this too many times. So yes, I do believe she's being
coached. We saw it with
here.
Zimmerman.
Yeah, exactly.
We saw it with Zimmerman, right? I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but let me just finish that quick point because it's you're so right. I mean, George Zimmerman. Remember when he saw Trayvon Martin in this gated community, a teenager himself, by the way, he decided at one point to call the authorities, and the authorities told him stop following him. Okay, we'll investigate this. We'll see if this is actually someone that needs, is doing something nefarious. Of course he wasn't. He was just coming back from 7-Eleven and was harassed and then later shot and killed by George Zimmerman. But we're talking about a man who's, I mean, he certainly wasn't a delicate flower, George Zimmerman. He looked like a pretty healthy guy. He had a gun on him, obviously much more, physically powerful than Trayvon Martin, a teenager, was. And he didn't even listen to the authorities. He had, and later presented himself as the victim, later acted as though his life was in danger, that he was facing an imminent threat. And it worked. He even had like an MMA coach show up and testify on the stand to say like, oh yeah, George Zimmerman, total wimp, like couldn't do MMA, can't. And it worked. So you make such a good point. Did you want to finish your thought, Farron, before we go to our next video?
No, I mean, you really summed it up perfectly there. And it's really pathetic if your defense has to be bringing somebody on to be like, no, this guy totally sucks. He couldn't fight anybody. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The right wingers all pointed out with George Zimmerman too, was look at the pictures. His nose was bloody. So obviously this kid deserved to die. We're just opening up a whole new can of angry worms going there. But God, it's you see it in all of these cases. You see it play itself out time and time again, and it just infuriates you all over because it does bring up all of the other memories for these things that still we haven't had closure on. We haven't had a proper justice system to deal with any of these things, and it's infuriating.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in that particular case, apparently George Zimmerman had the right to defend himself, even though he was the person provoking the situation. Whereas Trayvon Martin apparently didn't have the right to defend himself. He was the one being followed by George Zimmerman. But I guess that just it didn't matter. He didn't get a chance to share his side of the story in court, of course, because he died. Luckily, the story we're talking about today didn't end as tragically. But I do want to give you the grand finale to this interview, because again, I'm sure her lawyer is regretting agreeing to this interview. Take a look.
I'm a 22-year-old girl. Racism is. How is one girl accusing a guy about a phone a crime? Where is the context in that?
Mia,
what is the deeper story
Mia, it's
here?
not. That's not the problem. You have to at least understand your actions that day. You seem to have attacked this little boy, this young boy, this teenager. You seem to have attacked this teenager about the phone, and then it turned out he didn't even have your phone. That's the thing. I mean, you're saying, look, I'm 22 years old. You're 22 years old, but you are old enough to know better. So I will say you're 22. I get it.
Enough. The hotel did have my phone. The hotel did end up having my phone. I did get my belongings returned to me.
Now the hotel didn't have her phone. Her phone was returned to her from Uber, where she had left her phone. She left her phone in an Uber. So she didn't mention that in the interview, of course, but then proceeded to give Gayle King the hand because she didn't like the line of questioning.
I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people I've seen talk about her shushing Gayle King and essentially trying to shut her up. But that's a really important moment because it directly shows how little respect and how little she thinks of the Black community. Gayle King is, not a teenager who she assumed stole her phone. Gayle King is a national figure, and in just her own, again, pervasive racism, she thinks so little of Black women, Black people, that she shushes her when Gayle King gave her a platform to basically save her life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, here's an opportunity to switch up your image from someone who could have gotten a teenager killed if cops were involved, by the way, right? And that was why the Amy Cooper story was so devastating. That was the woman in Central Park who falsely accused a black man who was just politely asking her to put her dog on the leash. She accused him of assaulting her on the phone when she called the cops. And he's filming the whole time, of course, and it's evident that he's not assaulting anyone. He's just politely asking her to follow the law and put her dog on a leash in an area of the park where people go bird watching. And so she knew what she was doing. Like that's the thing about the Amy Cooper story. Like she knew what she was doing when she called the cops and falsely accused this man of hurting her or threatening her life. And that could have resulted in someone getting killed. This situation, with the 14-year-old teenager could have resulted in someone getting killed. It's just such a dangerous situation to put innocent people in. But there's this, again, going back to that word entitlement, this like sense of entitlement. And this, like, she took great offense to Gayle King asking her the questions that everyone wants answers to. Like she feels entitled to like softball questions in like a PR fluffy interview.
That the lawyer has to be sitting next to her thinking at that moment that, okay, we just went from, I think I got your case handled, to what kind of plea deal are we gonna have to make now? I mean, that's what that showed, because you instantly went from maybe she is this cute, lovable, scared, misunderstood to, wow, look at Exhibit C here. Look at the temper that this young woman showed when asked a simple question. And of course, now with the other arrests that happened, plea deal. Like that's the best she gets to hope for now, because now you have established a pattern of behavior. And that is going to destroy whatever case it was that lawyer had very thoroughly prepped her for prior to that interview. It's done. She's in a lot of trouble now. In that interview, I promise you, they're going to end up playing that in court to help make their case about her hot-headedness.
Yeah, and I should also note that she's facing some charges in Ventura County. Ventura County prosecutors are charging her with resisting arrest because she literally resisted arrest when she was pulled over and the cop told her to, step out of the vehicle. She shut the door and then they had to later force her out of the car. She tried to slam the door on one of the deputies, and that's when they just reached in and forcibly removed her. And so, Frederick, you get the last word on the story. Go ahead.
Again, for me, that last part, I think back to almost everything we talked about today. The people have been black, right? Like I can't imagine a world. I've been stopped by the police just for driving a nice car, and they're asking me whose car it is, and I'm deathly afraid. My hands are up, and I'm letting them know that I'm doing nothing wrong, and what every movement that I'm making. She's telling the police what she's not going to do. They had to force her out. It's so, the entitlement word again. I think that is one of the most entrenched issues in our culture as a nation, is the entitlement of white supremacy, the entitlement of racism, and this story, it just is that personified. So that's all I have to say about it. I truly, I hope that justice is served, and I hope that boy is okay. That's the most important thing. I hope that boy is okay, because it's a traumatizing global situation now.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.